It is my honor and my pleasure to be here with you today. You know what I want us to do? Let us all please stand. Let us stand. Let's give God the glory. Let's thank God the Father, God the Mother for this wonderful opportunity called today. You realize there are some people who did not see this day, and here we are. Is that good? I love it. I want you to feel so good about being here, standing amongst the living, walking amongst the living. God, life has invited you in. Just turn to your neighbor. Turn to your neighbor and say, oh neighbor. Ndewo. Turn to your neighbor and say, oh neighbor, Yaga's here. Thank you, God, for this wonderful opportunity that we call today. You know, there are millions of spirits looking for a body, and here we are. Millions of spirits looking for a body, and here we are. Is that good? I love it. You know what? I want us to be so grateful today that we just turn around and just give somebody a hug. You know, you don't have to know them. Just give them a hug. Give a woman, a child, a cat, and a dog, whatever. Just give them a hug because you are just in love with being alive. Let's get some love and some eons flowing in this room. Somebody say, Ise. And so it is. It is my honor and my pleasure to join you all today. You know, as God, Chineke is the reason for everything. I always have to start everything I do by offering a prayer. So I'll just ask all of you to please just close your eyes for a moment. Let's give God the glory. Thank you, Chineke. Osebuluwa, Olodumare, Tamona, Jinyame, Katonda, Nyemi, Nkosi, Muari, Ukulu, for this wonderful opportunity called today. Today we move our minds and our bodies in the perfecting presence of God. Right where we are, God is. God is in the midst of us today, creating divine order through divine love. We fear nothing, seen and unseen. All the goodness in the universe we claim this day as our divine inheritance. God is power. We are powerful. God is love. We are loving. God is peace. We are peace-filled. God is joy. We are joyful. God is truth. We are wrapped in her truth. We are manifestations of the divine. Greater is the power of God in our bodies than any affliction in the world. Greater is the power of Chineke in our minds than any condition in the world. The power of Chineke renews, reaffirms, reassures all that we are. All that we are, Chineke is. All that is noble, we are. For this we are grateful, for this we give thanks. And all this we claim as our divine inheritance, and let us all say amen. Ise and Ashe, and so it is. Thank you so much for joining us. Ndewo. Ndewo is an Igbo Nigerian word that means long life to all of you. And that is what I hope and pray for each one of you today. You know, the world has many dignitaries that we honor all over the world. But it is my joy and my pleasure to introduce to you one of Africa's greatest sons, who just happens to be my father, Uwa Onyioha. He is now an ancestor, but he is the supreme founder and teacher of Chiism. Nigeria is going to be honoring Ahai December the 27th through the 28th. We're planning a trip to Africa. We're planning a trip to encourage everyone who knows him. He's always been in Detroit. Every time he comes to the United States, he's always meeting with the Detroit community. So we're welcoming Detroit to come to Nigeria to be a part of the celebration of the 10th celebration memorial service for Uwa Onyioha. So it is my hope that all of you will be able, at least some of you will be able to attend. Next. But let me tell you a little bit about Uwa Onyioha, for those of you who don't know him. Uwa was a visionary. He dared to dream. And that's something that many of us don't do. We don't dream. We don't dare. We don't express audacity. But Uwa did that. Ahai taught us that it's important that we understand how sacred we are. Before I will talk about that, I just want to share with you what he was as a father. You know, many times parents think that they have to chastise or whoop, if I may use that expression, their children for acting out. My father never did that. I never did that. He was an interesting disciplinarian because the way he disciplined was very, very interesting. When I was young, I would get into trouble, and my mother would send me to the office where where he worked. And he would ask me to sit in the corner, and I'll sit there for the longest. And I'll wait and wait and wait for him to come out, for him to say something. But I'll be there for hours on end. He wouldn't say anything to me. Then finally, he would take his glasses off, and he would look at me, and he would shake his head, and he would say, Ago, Amulogu. And that's it. And he would tell me to go. And I'll say to myself, that's it? No whooping? Nothing? That's it? I'm free to go. And I am free to go. And then my mother would ask me, well, what did you learn? I said, I don't know. Dad just said, I'm That's all he said to me. He says, oh, really? Do you know what that means? I said, I don't know. But that's all he said to me. The next time I got into trouble, I was sent to his office again. And while I was there, I'll stay there for hours. And he'll say to me again, and he'll shoo me off again. And Mom will say, what did you learn? I said, nothing really. He just says, he says, do you know what he's saying to you? A lion never gives birth to a lamb. He's the lion, and you're not turning out to be a lioness. You're turning out to be a lamb, and the animals eat lambs. Well, that gave me food for thought. I admired my father tremendously, and what you're saying to me is, he doesn't think I'm ever going to be like him. I'm a lamb. So the next time I was in his office, before he can say it, I told him, Dad, I'm not going to be a lamb. I'm going to be a lion. You just watch me. And he said, it's up to you. And you send me on my way. I spent most of my life trying to be a lioness. And that means all those little things all those little messes that I got into as a child, I stopped. Because to my father, doing all of that means I'm a lamb. It's a powerful thing to say to a child. And then the other thing he did, he would wake me up very early in the morning. He'll make me go outside with him very early. And I'm talking about 5 a.m. Sometimes maybe even earlier than that sometimes. And he'll ask me to sit with him and watch the sun rise. Well, for me, being young, I certainly didn't want to sit out there that early. But I sat there with him and I watched the sun rise. We did this so many times, it got a little tiring for me because I was a child, of course. But finally, he asked me, do you know why I ask you to sit and watch the sunrise? And I said, no, Father. Why? He says, because I want you to know that the only thing greater than you is the sun. That's why I want you to see the sun. Unless someone can claim they are the sun, they are never greater than you. So to be less than is a choice that you make. It is not how God made you. God made you to be a manifestation of the divine that is the light of God. That's what you are. And then he said you don't have the right to die until you made a difference and never live anywhere unknown. That became my modus operandi. To make sure, and that's not to be grandiose in my attitude, no. But that's to say, you don't have the right. Hear what I'm saying. You don't have the right to die. In other words, your life is supposed to be meaningful. You can't just take in air and pass away. You've got to be, your life has to be meaningful. You don't have the right to die until you've made a difference and never live anywhere unknown. That's the kind of man he was. He dared to be different. He dared to be different. always misunderstood. Great people are not those that people rally around. Great people are those who dare to be different. Everyone he met, he told them, dare to be different. Take the risk. Dream. Big dreams. Do not ever allow yourself to become common. See, when you walk with the status quo, you become common. This is the spirituality of the African. Daring to be bold. To go beyond your circumstances. Because what you become is strictly up to you. If you are the son, then you cannot accept anything less than greatness. He reminded everyone he met that we're all going to someday leave this earth. What would your tombstone say? He was a very interesting man to sit and listen to. Many of you who know him can attest to that. That's who that man is. He was a political powerhouse. Why? During the time that Nigeria was fighting for independence from the British, I had worked with the first president of Nigeria, Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe. Mbolo Jike, Falaransom Kuti's mother. He was heavily involved in the politics of the time, fighting for Nigeria to get its independence from the British. He carried his fight into the spiritual realm. He wanted to understand why we as Africans reject our own spirituality when there's power in it. And in researching, he found that the African spirituality, at least within the Igbo, within the Yorubas, the Hausas, etc., that we believed in God. But that we believed that we were connected to that God through our chi, the spirit energy within each one of us. So that we are connected. We don't need to find God anywhere. We're already there. So that means from us to God, there's no distance. Hear what I'm saying? From us to Chineke, there is no distance. The only distance that is the one you allow yourself, the one that somebody creates for you, but you're already there. Right where you are, God is. So in African spirituality, in Chiism, we say Mona Chiso. Mona Chiso means I am one with God. Ebamo Chinoya, where I am, God is. And he drummed that into our heads. You see, when you understand that you are part of the source, the power, you're less likely to be intimidated. You're less likely to succumb to servitude as a behavior. And that's what he kept saying. The lion never gives birth to a lamb. We're all lions. And if we understand the power of our spirituality, that connection to God, we will act like lions and lionesses and define ourselves and not allow people to define us. I loved people. Those of you who know him, who met him. Everybody was the greatest African of the 20th century. The greatest anything of the 20th century. He never saw a human being lower than him. Because he believed, and he preached it, that if you believe that God is within you, you have to see the same thing in another human being. This is how the Africans believed in God. As a matter of fact, in Africa we have shrines everywhere. We have shrines. But people can go to each other's shrines and swear by someone else's shrine. Because they believe there's no difference between yours and mine. So we are the same thing. So we don't discredit each other. We don't treat each other badly. Because if God is in me, then God is in you. Mporo is his hometown. Mporo is a village in the eastern part of Nigeria, and it has 8 villages. That's where he hailed from. He loved Mporo so much, and its people, And because he thought that he didn't have the right to die until he made a difference, he worked very, very hard to bring agriculture to the village. He worked very hard to expose them to the world. He worked very hard that he was the only person, the only indigenous African who was allowed to address the sitting session of the United Nations in 1978. And it was, as a proud Nkoro man, he stood there and told them that we have to redefine civilization. Redefine civilization not to mean economic opulence and technological know-how, but the ability for us as human beings to live in peace with one another and not disparage each other. Nkoro today is striving because of some of the things that he brought there. So I just wanted to let you know a little bit about where he came from. And there are lots of Nkoro people all over the world, most of them doing marvelous, miraculous things. Of course I call it miraculous when you focus on doing good, and not only for yourself, and you're doing for your community. That's a miraculous thing. That's part of our spirituality that we need to go back to. Nkoro is his hometown. Nkoro is a village in the eastern part of Nigeria, and it has 8 villages. That's where he hailed from. He loved Nkoro so much and its people. And because he thought that he didn't have the right to die until he made a difference, he worked very, very hard to bring agriculture to the village. He worked very hard to expose them to the world. He worked very hard that he was the only person, the only indigenous African who was allowed to address the sitting session of the United Nations in 1978. And it was, as a proud Nkoro man, he stood there and told them that we have to redefine civilization. Redefine civilization not to mean economic opulence and technological know-how, but the ability for us as human beings to live in peace with one another and not disparage each other. Nkoro today is striving because of some of the things that he brought there. So I just wanted to let you know a little bit about where he came from. And there are lots of Nkoro people all over the world, most of them doing marvelous, miraculous things. Of course I call it miraculous when you focus on doing good, and not only for yourself, and you're doing for your community. That's a miraculous thing. That's part of our spirituality that we need to go back to. The whole idea of going to Nigeria in December is to honor this man. It's for the world to see and hear and learn about where he's from. It's for the world to come and meet this man in December. So what is Chiism? What is Chiism? Chiism is a synthesis of African spiritual tradition of direct communication with God without passing through any medium. And that is to say, right where we are, God is. I mentioned that earlier. We believe in the spirit of belief, biri kan biri. That means live and let live. Biri kan biri. That is actually the foundational principle of Chiism. If you understand that I have the right to exist, then you and I will get along. There's nothing for us to fight over. So that is the foundational principle of Chiism. It's not about who's right and who's not right. And that's why, as I said earlier, the Africans can go to each other's shrines. They're very tolerant. So that's the spirit of Chiism. Biri kan biri. Live and let live. Also munachiso. I walk with God. I walk with Chineke. See, that's a powerful thing. That's a powerful knowledge to have. Because one of the things that is affecting many of us is now understanding that we don't have to go through anybody else or anything else to find Chineke, to find God. You know, I teach, we have a university, so I have a lot of students from Africa who are students of the university. And it is so fascinating, their thoughts on the conditions of the African in Africa. Many of them do not even see where Africans contributed anything. Many of these students talk about how grateful we should be that the Europeans came into Africa because they gave us this and gave us that, and I asked them, well, so what did you give them in return? Do you see that you contributed anything to humanity? Or have you been convinced that everybody else gave you and you had nothing to contribute? What Chiism teaches us, ladies and gentlemen, is to stand up. We call it guzo. Guzo. Guzo means stand up. Because when they tell you to stand up, guzo, 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 that means that you must understand that it's time. Whenever you stand up, that means you're expected to speak for yourself. It's a recognition that you know from where you came from, that you are a product of greatness. You see, when I say greatness, greatness doesn't always mean money. And I think that's where people think that their greatness have gone if they don't have money. Money is not everything. Standing up, remembering who your ancestors were. That's what it is. That you had kings and queens in your ancestry. When you stand up, you realize how sacred you are. In Igbo language, we say, you are sacred as an eagle. Chiism tells you, stand up and realize that you are from fierce warriors. How can you have all that in your history? And you're treated like a second-hand human citizen, and you're accepted. How do you do that? Chiism reminds you to stand up because within the recesses of your mind is the power of the great-grandmothers and great-grandfathers. All their intelligence accessible to you through the power of your spirit. That's what Chiism tells you. You're already there. You're already there. It tells you to stand up. And this part of it is very, very important. Define who you are. When you go to the Nigerian village, they ask you, when you're talking foolish, they ask you, whose child are you? And then when they ask you, you're supposed to be able to say who you are. Who are you? How do you define who you are? To whom do you define who you are? Speak for yourself. Define yourself. Don't allow people to do that for you. As a Chiist, you define yourself. You go beyond your humanness. You see, there's so much that happens around us in human form. You go beyond your humanness and enter the unlimited world of the spirit. That's a powerful place to be. You don't have to die to get there. Do you hear what I'm saying? You don't have to die to get there. You're already there. Somebody say, easy. You are already there. Because you are a product of the Most High. See, once you have that mental cognition, that spiritual cognition, that universe will pick you up. Father God will hold you up. Mother God will keep you up. This is how you walk around in holy boldness. Because the power that be has got you up. You're already there. That's what Chiism is about. Stand up. But understand what stand up means. Stand up means kulie bilioba. Stand up. You hear young people when they want to speak, they say, word up. Word up. What does that mean? When you put the word out, blessings flow. That is what Chiism reminds you to do. What is our ministry? Our ministry is called Global Faith Ministries of Chiism. Why global faith? Because we honor. That's the tradition of the Africans. We honor every religion. We honor every culture. When you're able to honor other culture, or the culture, take the burden of trying to prove anything. See, I don't have to prove anything to anyone. I walk with God. It's that simple. All the global faiths are just as important as you are. But you're no less. You're no less. Chiism says you are as good. I don't believe that we have the right to say to anyone, I'm better. Because when you say you're better, then that means you don't understand God. Somebody said Ise. You don't understand. Chi. Chi's in everyone. So how do you say you're better? But the important thing is for you to know that you're not less. That you have the capacity to soar. That's up to you. So global faith reminds everyone that all faiths are important. Because all faiths believe in Chi. Some may not. That's all right. But what's important in Chiism is that you know God, and you are just as good as anyone else. How do we promote our ministry? First of all, we understand that education is key. We don't want you to come and sit in church. Somebody said, he said, we don't want that. We want you to sit in a classroom and learn. Learn about who you are. Learn about your history. Learn about the greats in your race. Give everybody else respect. But do you know your own people? Some of the students that we have at Chiism University have not read a book written by a black person. Sometimes when you give them those books, they just don't know what to do with it. It's just so overwhelming. They can't believe that we think this way. One time I went to Nigeria and I took a bunch of I took some African Americans home, and we went to a theater just like this, and it was full of young people, young students. And we were telling them about the contributions of the African Americans to America. Those young people had no clue. If you had dropped a pin, you would have heard it because they were just glued. Really? We did all of that? And even in our university, these are high school graduates. Some of the information they're getting, they have no clue exists. But that's what an education should be. Education should tell you about yourself. You cannot be a master of someone else's information and be a novice at yours. Somebody said, don't get me preaching today. But I have to. I have to. That's one of our ministries. When you give somebody a book, you open their mind, you open the world to them. And that's what's important to us. Our ministry is not about going to church and preaching. No. As part of it, we all have to come together sometimes. But the important thing, one of our key programs, is Chiism University. Next. Because education is key. Most of our people, our young people, are miseducated. You know we are miseducated. I don't have to tell you that, you know that. We have a lot of so-called educated people who have no clue about what it takes to move their cultures, their communities forward. But we're educated. So our ministry is about changing the mindset to make them understand that the education is not just for you, it's for your community. The community is supposed to benefit from your education. That's what Chiism University is. It says, my wealth lies outside of me. That's why in Igbo land, they sing a song. They sing for you, they say, almost funny, yes, but it means a lot. They say you're walking around here all looking glossy and fantastic, but your mama is at home, has no clothes and no food to eat. Your community is in shambles, and you're driving your fancy cars. So they laugh at you, because wealth is not just your wealth. The people, the community must benefit from your wealth, because not all of us can have the capacity to achieve everything. So those of us who have, we've got to make sure that we help our brothers and sisters up. That's what it means. So we say to our students, you must graduate and take what you've learned, take it home, and use it to benefit your community. The other ministry, part of our ministry, is called Amarachi. Amarachi is based on 8 dimensions of healing. You have spiritual healing, emotional healing, financial healing, mental healing, nutritional, cultural, intimacy, and economic. Those are very critical. See, if you've got one and you don't have the other, you don't have anything. Way back when, in African tradition, in my village, I'll use my village, there was never a poor man or a poor woman. If you don't have food, those who have food will tie yams to trees along the way, so anybody can go and get food to eat. So there's no poverty if your brother is wealthy. So all these dimensions, when you study that, you build the whole person, but at the same time, you're learning that if I'm building me, I must make sure that I'm building my brother up. That's what makes community. That's what the Africans used to do. And that's what we must return to. Amarachi is a state of being that means you acknowledge the presence of God, and to aspire to be as God, you have to achieve all of these. One man who's hungry affects the whole. One sick person affects the whole. And so it's imperative that we learn everything we need to learn about who we are to get us to that state, that highest level. The Buddhists, they want to achieve a state of Buddha. Christians want to be Christ-like, etc., etc. The Chiists want to achieve the state of Amarachi, but we have to heal all aspects of our being. If one is in bad shape, I guarantee you are never going to be in good shape. If you don't have any money, you'll be struggling. If you're emotionally not in order, money wouldn't matter. Every aspect of our being needs to be touched. So that's part of the ministry. Heal the total person, not just one part of us. Next. The next part of we have the African Women Economic Consortium. You see, part of what makes a nation great is how it treats its women. Somebody says it. How you treat your women ultimately affects how your society will look. Look all over the world. All communities that support their women do much better than those who suppress their women. So it's important that our ministry includes uplifting the women, supporting the women, advocating for the women and the children. So we have personal development. We have women empowerment. We have big workshops where we take some excellent speakers in different areas and talk to the women about what they need to know to help them uplift themselves in whatever areas they have challenges. And then we also have financial literacy. One thing we have found in our ministry is that a lot of women have no idea about finances. We don't. Some of us do. Some of us, through circumstances beyond our control, we have issues. We have to manage money. When somebody learns how to manage money, it is one way to achieving Amarachi. So we work very heavy into literacy, financial literacy. It's called FIND, financial independence, not dependence. And then, of course, spousal abuse protection and advocacy. We're heavy into that. And child abuse protection, well, I've just mentioned that. Next. Then we have the annual Interfaith Global Conference. See, this is a very important conference that's held in America, where we bring traditional, now this is a segment that's not always included, but needs to be included in discussions. Okay? So you have traditional rulers from different parts of the world that come, including your Abrahamic faith. We don't exclude anyone. But it's exciting to have traditional religions come together. It is one of the most powerful experiences, because you see what the culture of the people is that have been wrapped and locked in the closet. When you meet these traditional spiritualists and you hear what they have to say, it is beyond powerful. So we have that once every year. That's held here. Then every other year is held in Africa. Next. Obasioha. This is one of our passions. Obasioha. Obasioha is Africa's place of worship. Now globally, if you go travel around the world, there are monuments constructed to glorify the spiritual cultures of other nations. You have the Islamic mosques, you have the Christian churches, cathedrals, you have Jewish temples, Buddhist temples, Hindu temples, etc. Ours is Obasioha. Because it's important that we showcase our own place of gathering, just like everyone else. Next. And this is our own Obasioha. That's what we're constructing. This is going to be built in Abuja, in Ghana, and in Mboro village. All those steeples you see there represent the 8 graces or spirits of Chineke. Ikenga represents strength. Agunsi, good health. Imomiri, the deep ocean. Ekuroche, rivers and lakes. Anyanwu, the sun. In the middle of the roof, in the center, is the sun. As I said earlier, the greatest manifestation of God is the sun. It's in the center there. Then you have Allah, Mother Earth. And how do we honor Mother Earth? As you can see, the greenery reflects Mother Earth. So where you have your Obasioha is very green. It will be very green to show our honor to Mother Earth and nature. Then you have Kamalo Amadioha, thunder and lightning. Ofonogu symbolizes justice, fairness, and more. We believe that nature is a part of God. And God uses nature to bless humanity. So inside your Obasioha, all those graces of God are reflected. The 4 that you have, that you see out there, are the Ikenga, Agunsi, Imomiri, and the Kuruche. Then inside are the smaller versions. It's about 60,000 square foot of building. It's an exciting, exciting proposal. Next. Then we have the traditional medical center. I think that, very honestly, one of the saddest things that has happened to Africa is the fact that we have abandoned our traditional medicine. Not everybody has access to medicine, to orthodox medicine. When we didn't have that, what did we have? We had nature. We used herbs to treat our people. Those who have mastered the art of using herbs were, unfortunately, have been given a bad name. You know, when you give a dog a bad name, you hang it, right? So you have people running from their traditional things. And then if you come to America or you go to Europe, traditional things are selling big. But somehow, when it's our own thing, we're supposed to undermine it. So we're trying. Uwa Onyioha had advocated tremendously for the restoration of the traditional medical research. And so we are building the traditional medical research and cultural center in Mboro, Nigeria. That'll be the first place we're going to build it. The center, and that's the center. Now notice, the one thing you will notice about our architecture is we honor African architecture. Okay? We want everything that we build, everything that Chiism builds, has to have tenets of African architecture with 21st century amenities. You know, culture is dynamic. We always have to move culture to meet where the world is. But you don't abandon, you don't wash the baby and throw away the baby and keep you don't throw away the baby with the dirty bathwater. And so some aspects of our culture we have to save. This is where we're going to study African medicine, its history and culture. This is the place that we are going to receive our guests from all over the world, particularly our African American guests. That's where we have our cultural exhibits. Festivals will be held there. And all doctors from all over the world will be coming and learning from the African. Those things that we have shelved, we want to bring out again and put it forefront for the rest of the world to see. Next. The Nwalota stands for Nigeria Welcomes Africans Outside the Ane, and it means motherland. The Nwalota project, our goal is to welcome Africans in diaspora back home, but we're doing it through our spirituality, to reconnect you to the spirituality of the people, to reintroduce you to the land, because there's nothing that you do if you take the spirituality of the people out of it, it's not going to work. So this pilgrimage is going to take you throughout different pertinent places in Nigeria, where those communities will welcome you back home. You go through the age grade system, because the age grade system is a way that we use to welcome people back into the fold, if you will. And we aim to take our young people home so that they can go through the rites of passage. In Ankoro we call it Ipuabala. They are going to witness authentic rites of passage, particularly for our young men. And that's very important. Unfortunately, we have our young people being locked up in jails and all of that. But that's not necessary if you give them some pertinent parts of their history back. I'm not guaranteeing that it's going to solve all the problems, but sometimes if a child understands who they really are. I have to give you this little story. I was driving, this was in Detroit. I was driving in my car, and this young man came to me, and he pulled a gun, and he told me to get out of my car. Get out of my car, he said, get out of my car. This was on, I don't know what's that street, it's right, oh gosh, I've drawn a blank right now, but it's downtown. And he told me, the interesting thing was I wasn't frightened, you know, because he's a kid. He really believes that his power lies in that gun. All he has to do is tell me, get out of the car. And I just did what my father did. And I shook my head and I said, hey, I'm Hamlu. That means the lion has been birthed to the land. And he asked me, what does that mean? I said, here you are, a lion, acting like a lion. Sure, I can give you the car. It's just metal. But what you lose by taking this car is that you stop being a lion. You will always be a lion. Here, take the keys, go. So he looked at me, he said, well, what are you talking about? Now, I disarmed him momentarily. Because I said, you're better than this. I'm not going to lecture you if that's what you want. It's just metal, right? But you're better than this. You're a lion. How can a lion act like a lion? What Dad said. For that moment, that quick moment, he dropped the key on the floor and ran away. Now, this happened here in Detroit. I don't know that what I did touched him, but somehow perhaps it did. The point I'm trying to make is sometimes you have to present these children point blank. This is who you are. You're not all that stuff they say you are or whoever they are. You have to act according to what you are. You're a lion. Don't act like a lamb. That guy just dropped that little gun and ran. My keys and ran. Well, of course I was like, oh, thank God. But something touched that young man. I'm not saying that anytime you see somebody with a gun, you say that. The point I'm trying to make is sometimes our young people have to see themselves differently. In his desperate moment, he stopped being a king. He stopped seeing himself as something worthy. He reduced himself, hunger or whatever, reduced him to something he's not. He doesn't need the car. He doesn't need to go to prison for a medal. So I don't know what happened to him. I wish I could see him again and talk to him. But we're going to be building the Nwalota village. The Walota village is an exciting part of the project because it's a village that you can come and develop yourselves using African architecture. Bring it to the 21st century. You can build, you can create as a matter of fact, they have this particular village has agriculture. They want you to come and farm, because farming is big money now in Africa, big time money. They want you to come and farm. Come and get the land, come and farm. Build your own villages. Be a part of the community. Welcome back home. You can stay there. Sometimes we go on trips. When we go on trips, we go to England, we go to Paris, we go to all those exciting places. But many of us don't visit Africa because sometimes we're told things about Africa. They're not always true. Because there are things that we learn about America, and if I believed it, I would not be here. Sometimes you have to walk on faith. Go find out yourself. And asking you to come home, starting next year, the Walota project takes effect. We want you to come and see this village, come and build it using African architecture. Be a part of the community. Build within that community. Build within that community. And you will be received by many villages. That Walota project is an experience. It's something that you must experience. Because different villages are lined up to welcome you. From one village to the other, you'll be traveling. That's what Uwa Onyioha wanted to see. Africans coming together. Because it's not a matter of uprooting you from where you are. It's not a matter of that. If you want to stay here, of course. That's not the point. The point is that you know there's that other place where you can come, if I may use the expression, and chill now and then. And be with your own folks. Learn some history. Be a part of tradition. Your tradition. You know, I always tell people, and it is a very important point for me to make. A lot of people want to say that we are the Africans. We the Africans. That you were descendants of slaves. You were not descendants of slaves. Your ancestors were enslaved, yes. But you were freeborn. That's part of history. But those people are my ancestors too. So if we're descendants of slaves, well, I'm too. There's no difference between the African American and the African. Though some people think it is, no, it's not. We share the same ancestors. If our ancestors were enslaved, they were not slaves, they were enslaved. So was mine. Those are my ancestors we're talking about. So we have a lot in common. And it's important that we know that. So when we're welcoming you home, we say, you are my ancestors' offspring. You're no less than I am and no less than you are. We are one. That's what Walota is saying. Come on home, my brothers and sisters. That's the objective of Walota. Yes. You know, every vision dies ultimately without support. There's so many good visions out here. They die without support. We need you for all these projects to become a reality. You know, the Africans say it takes a village to raise a child. But after you raise that child, then what? The village raises the child, and after that, then what? The child may have a vision. If you don't support that vision dies, and so does the child in a way, because they cannot achieve all that they can be if the village fails to support them. So we need you. We have a website for Uwa Onyioha, GoFundMe.com. GoFundMe, Uwa. I think I have it. It's going to show in a minute. We're asking the community to be a part of this process. You go out there and make your donations, and do so passionately. Do so because we are building something that's yours. Something that you can claim and be competitive at the world stage. show you theirs. You show them yours. You'll be at the same table. We need you to make this a reality. You know, there is an Igbo proverb. It says, when a child washes his or her hands, he can then dine with the elders. When a child washes his or her hands, he dines with the elders. The elders are sitting at the table, at the world stage. It's time for us to wash our hands so that we can sit right there. We can't talk about it. You see, you can't demand anything. You have to get up there. What you want, you take. Because you've got the capacity to do it. Somebody say, you hear what I'm saying? You have the capacity to make the same thing everybody else is doing. You can make yours happen. All you have to do is have the wherewithal to go up there, to GoFundMe, the site that I'm going to share with you, and go make your donations. No amount is too little. It's a game of numbers. And when we build these things that we're talking to you about, it becomes part of your heritage. It becomes somewhere you can go and lay claim just like everybody else. And I talked about that pan. I put water in the pan. When we talk about you washing your hands so you can eat with the elders, you can dine with the elders, that water has to be muddy for us to know that you're prepared to dine at the table with the elders. If that pan stays clean, you haven't washed your hands and you are not prepared. Don't talk about it, be about it. Somebody say, be about it. So I go to the GoFundMe site and I look to see where are the names of my brothers and sisters. Where are they? Who's making the donations? If I don't see it, then the water is clean. We still haven't muddied it, we haven't washed our hands, and we are not prepared to dine with the elders. So ladies and gentlemen, I'm asking you to join us to raise Chiism at the level where it should be, at the world stage with the rest of the world. And we ask you to support the fundraising effort to build the cultural center, the tribal medical center, the cultural traditional research, medical research center, so that we too can have something that we call our own. And we also can support the memorial service in honor of the man with this vision who has passed on this vision to us, and it's now our responsibility to carry it forward. I thank you so very much for having me here today. It has been a pleasure, and I hope that you will go and make your support known. Thank you. And these are our websites, chiism.org. You can visit us there, and then www.gofundme.com/www.gofundme. I have some cards available that you can have that has all that information for you. So thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure. I look forward to the next session.